What's up, future respiratory therapist? Going to continue along on this little journey of breaking down some common disease processes for you in a very systematic manner, in a very simplistic manner. So we've talked before about pleural effusion. Now we're going to talk today about pneumonia. You see it there on the board. It's another common pulmonary disease that you will deal with as a respiratory therapist, and you will be tested over it as you move through your coursework and prepare for your TMC exam. So remember, I told you that when you're learning disease processes, you can get lost in the minutia if you try to remember every single slide. So what the purpose here is to give you a simple 4 or 5 point breakdown of just a few words to characterize a disease process. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. We're talking about pneumonia today. The first thing you have to understand about pneumonia, and the first word that should come to mind, should be consolidation. And when we say consolidation, we're talking about alveolar consolidation. Now, the second point that comes up is what is causing this alveolar consolidation. And you have to understand that it's some sort of infection, which will be present and obvious by your white blood cell count being elevated. So if you ever see a high white blood cell count, you should at least, and you have suggestive patterns of consolidation being present, then you should be considering pneumonia as your disease process. Now, when I say infection, understand that the springboard of infection is for you in your mind while you're traveling during your commute or while you're studying, is to say it can be an infection. Understanding that it can be a bacterial or a viral infection, okay? Now, if we know that it's infection-based and we know that it's consolidation-based, then understand that you're probably going to see a productive cough for yellow sputum. Remember, yellow is indicative of an acute infection when you're talking about sputum. Now, when you look at a chest x-ray, you're going to see an area that has increased areas of opacity, which means it's more white and less black. Black is air, white is more dense objects, okay? And so when you're thinking pneumonia, you're talking about alveolar consolidation. Wherever the pneumonia is, that area is going to have an increased area of opacities. But the word that you should associate with pneumonia is air bronchograms. Okay, because what happens is the alveoli become consolidated, but the airways do not. And so the airways always almost look like little chicken feet in or on your chest x-ray. And this is what we call air bronchograms. And this is associated with pneumonia. Now, the last thing listed here is when we listen to our patient, what are we going to hear? A key term that's associated with pneumonia, especially on your TMC boards, is bronchial breath sounds. Now, as treatment continues, then the consolidation will break up, and the consolidation will begin moving out of the lungs. You have to clear it out. And as those secretions start moving, you will move from bronchial breath sounds to more coarse crackle breath sounds, okay, as they cough and clear the secretions. So those are just 5 bullet points associated with pneumonia that are some key words, especially in the testing world, that you should associate with pneumonia. First, it's consolidation. Second of all, it's associated with infection, indicative by an increased white blood cell count. Third, patient will possibly have a productive cough for yellow sputum. When you look at your chest x-ray, you're going to see areas of increased localized opacities with air bronchograms present. And then when you listen to your patient, bronchial breath sounds moving into and towards coarse crackles as the consolidation is broken up will lead to, is what you'll see with this patient. So bronchial breath sounds moving towards coarse crackles. Okay. Now there's a whole nother segment about patient assessment, like I mentioned before. I don't get into that here because if you understand patient assessment as a basis of its own, then tying it to disease processes is very simple. Okay. And we'll talk about that at a later time. But right now, keeping it simple, the 4 or 5 points that separate pneumonia from pleural effusion and other common disease processes. I hope this helps. Would love to hear your comments. Would love to hear a request on a specific disease process that I can break down in this same manner. Good luck this semester.